Hi, welcome teachers. Excited to be here. It's a Tuesday afternoon, 3 p.m. It's time to get started with UEN and GEGUtah's Applied Digital Skills program, talking about Google's Applied Digital Skill lessons. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Matt Winters. I'm a trainer at UEN, but also I help out a ton with UEN Homeroom, and I'm also leader for GEGUtah, which is Google Educator Group Utah. Very excited to be here with you today. I'm very excited about the lesson we're going to be looking at today. So if this is your first time looking at these applied digital skills lessons, know that we're going to go for about 40 minutes, and we're going to look at one applied digital skills lesson plan from Google. So if you're unfamiliar with applied digital skills, it's a lesson where the teachers where Google hands a lesson to teachers where it teaches the digital skill, i.e. working with sheets or slides or docs or sites or whatever it might be, or even coding, which we'll get into a little bit of that today. Hands that to the teacher so the teacher can work with the content, not with the skill that they might have a little bit of a difficult time with. And so today what we're going to look at is one of my favorite lessons I've done the entire thing. I'm surprised. I picked it because it's such an interesting topic, one that I think most educators maybe don't have a big background in. I certainly didn't. But it's something that as I was doing the lesson the last couple of days and kind of exploring how you could remix it and those sorts of things, it's fantastic from both a singular class perspective, but also from a multidisciplinary multi-class perspective. So think about this in terms of a lesson that you could do with multiple classrooms all working together for a day or a week to really think about what's going on. So the lesson we're going to be doing is called Introduction to Machine Learning. It's going to cover some work in sheets, maps, forms, and then they have some coding as well. We're actually going to train a computer how to do coding, how to recognize pictures, which is really cool. So lots of stuff to work on. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so you can jump in with me as well. As always, we're on our shared site, which is, you can find this at go.uen.org/lowercase b, uppercase T, the number 9. This will be up here for at least the next year. So you can go back and grab this, share it with teachers, whatever you need to do. And then the video will be on each lesson as we go through. On this page, you're going to find my contact information, including my email, my Instagram, my Twitter account, and then a link to GEGUtah. So if you click this link right here, it'll take you to GEGUtah's site, including a link to join GEGUtah, which if you're not a member, we would love to have you. You don't have to be Google certified as an educator. You can just jump in and join us, which would be fantastic for us to see. Down below that, you're going to see some quick links to each of the lesson pages, some links to the Google Workspaces for EDU UEN site, as well as Google's EDU and 9D video for last month. The new one's yet to come out for January 2022. We'll see that. We'll put that posted on there as soon as it comes out. And then a couple of Wakelets, the Wakelet for UEN tools, tons of material on here for all the different tools UEN supports, and our social media as well. All right. If this is your first time at the site, or if you need a refresher, you can click on any of these lesson plans down below. These are the 8 that we're going to be doing in this series. We are up to Introduction to Machine Learning. We got 2 weeks left. We're going to do Create a Comic Strip, which is one of my favorite ones, probably my favorite one. We'll do that one next week. And then the last thing we're going to do is Understanding Your Digital Footprint. We're going to pick this series up again around the end of April, beginning of May, towards the end of the school year. And do another 8 as well, because there's so many good lessons. They just came out with a new batch. There's an excellent one creating a joke bot, which for April Fool's Day, you can't get much better. It's fantastic. But any of these, if you click the link, it'll take you to the site with the YouTube video for this particular lesson plan, links to the site or the Applied Digital Skills lesson, starter projects, lesson resources, and some remixes as well. So lots of materials for you to get started, not just to go through the lesson, but actually to start using this in the classroom this week, next month, whatever works best for you. So again, we're going to go to the page that says Introduction to Machine Learning. To find that, if you're on the home page, you're going to see a menu over here on the left-hand side, get a little drop down, and then you're going to go down to Introduction to Machine Learning. On this page, you're going to find, again, link to the lesson, and the video will be there as soon as we're done, and it's posted on YouTube, which, by the way, all the videos are posted on UEN's YouTube page. So youtube.com/c/UEN video, and you'll be able to scroll through there, see all of the different videos, including all of the applied digital skills lessons and anything for GEGUtah, Canvas, Scribble, so many different awesome options, including a brand new episode of PDTV. Down below, again, link to the lesson plan on applied digital skills. Today, we're going to be using a starter project. We actually have 4. This is a big project. Google says that this would take a student anywhere from 3 to 5 hours to complete. And going through it, I would very much agree with that. Now, that 3 to 5 hours could be in one class, or we're going to talk about some options for this could be actually done over a couple of different classes on the same day, in the same week, to reiterate the skills and maybe do some cross-curriculum work. Now, each one of these little starter projects, you should be able to click on it. It'll give you a forced copy so you can have a copy of the document. We're going to go through each one of these starter projects and explain why there's 4 of them this week instead of just 1. Because there's just a lot of layers to this project, lots of little things. And we're going to go fairly quickly today because I want to finish at 3:40. Make sure you get plenty of time back to you at the end of this, but I just want to make sure you get some good ideas. Underneath that, you're also going to find a link to Google's machine learning app, which is really cool. This actually trains a computer to look at images, and students can do this pretty easily with no login. It's pretty awesome. Refresher video on how to use Google Forms and Google Sheets. So if you're going, I haven't used Sheets all year, or Forms, it's just not my forte, this is a great way to get started. And then we have our remix options down below. We'll go through those at the very end. All right, let's go ahead and jump over to our lesson on applied digital skills. You can click right here at this link, or in the middle here, this is a link as well. That will take you to this page on Google's applied digital skills. While we're here, I just want to say you can go browse lessons and you can go see all the different lesson plans that are available by grade level, by digital tool, and also by topic down below. So lots of different options here for you as a teacher to drop in and grab different tool sets, different lessons for your class, depending on which content, which level of students, or which kind of tool you want to work with. Again, today we are working on introduction to machine learning, and we just had a couple people enter the room. So I'm just going to drop the link to the site again in our chat. So I'm going to go ahead and copy link address. Oh, that is not what I wanted it to say. GEGUtah.org/BT9. All right. Today, what we're going to do again is going to an introduction to machine learning. The lesson on applied digital skills again says 3 to 5 hours. Again, I would say this does take 3 to 5 hours, but it doesn't have to be all in the same class. It could be in multiple classes. All the applied digital skill lessons, they have a start page. They say what activities. They have the teaching materials that you might need as well. And they have download all the videos, sample rubrics, the lesson plans, certificates of completion, as well as it walks you through all the different units. And this is where I wanted to start today, is that I've said multiple times already that this is a big project and we're going to gloss at a lot of stuff today. But this is a 6 or 7 unit lesson plan. Again, you could do this over multiple days, or you could do it in multiple classes in the same day or week. But there are so many cool embedded things in here that would work in, if you were working together in a group, that would work in an ELA class, math class, a social studies class, even some CTE classes would really benefit from it. So let's go ahead and jump in. The unit starts out with giving you a really interesting set of data. So the first couple of videos walk you through what is machine learning, which students really, I didn't have a full comprehension of what machine learning is. I think a lot of teachers might have a good starting understanding of that, but they really might need to dive in a little bit more deeply and understand it. And these videos do a great job over the course of the first 2 or 3 videos, really explaining that. But they give out these driving record data points. And I just wanted to share this with you. This is video 2 on unit 1. These driving records are going to allow us to start thinking about data. And that's what we're going to do in the first little bit, is looking at data and looking for continuances in the data, and then making some inferences on that data. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to our website. Down below, you're going to see the starter projects. And the first one there, you can see it's Google Sheet of driving data. That's the one we're going to use to start off with. These should be open, but if you see anything different in the chat, feel free to drop it and let me know. I'll make these available to everyone. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this. And as you can see, this is just a copy of the data that was given out by Google. There's 5 different records here. So a teacher could say, I'm going to give 4 people this group data C, this group's going to get B, this group's going to get A, and so on and so forth, so that you get different inferences and you can talk about it. But the data is very simple. So it's got a group of addresses, 23 places, It's got a start and an end location, a day, time, a start time and end time, a distance, and a trip duration. So basically what we're looking at is driving records over the course of a week of a single person, where we're going, where we end up, what time we leave, and what day of the week we're going. And the first thing Google wants you to do in this lesson, wants students to do, is look at the data and start thinking about, thinking about it as a computer. What data is there? And they ask a big question in the first unit. What would you want to share this data with everyone? Is this something you'd want to share with your parents, with your teachers, with your fellow students? Why or why not? Who would you not want to know this data? And it starts getting them thinking about data collection and data retention, and who are we sharing data with? So it becomes kind of this embedded digital skills lesson, which is kind of cool as well. But what they want you to do, want students to do with this first lesson here, or this first data set, is to make a pivot table. So a pivot table allows us to look at the data and make some really quick assumptions off of it. In this case, we're going to make a pivot data for how many times this person, whoever it is, goes to that specific location during the course of the week, and we're looking for frequency. So in order to do that, we're going to go up to data, and we are going to go ahead and look through data. And there's a couple things that we want to work on in here. Actually, they just moved that. Sorry, it used to be in data. It's now in insert. This is one of those things I was looking yesterday and I was like, nope, I'm doing the same thing. Pivot table used to be in data. They just moved it a couple of weeks ago to insert. So if you go down to insert and pivot table, it's just been changed, just like, I think maybe even last week when I was working on this. So insert pivot table. What's it going to do is going to grab all the data that's on there. We're going to ask it to make a brand new sheet. So it's going to create a new sheet on our overall sheet. We're going to click create, and it's going to give us this data. Okay. From there, we're going to go ahead and click rows, and we're going to click add, and we're going to go with, I believe we need our start date. So we're going to go with rows, add, start. Okay. Yep. There we go. We're going to go ahead and hit values. And we want to know, I believe we want to know day. Yep, there we go. So with two clicks of the button, we're seeing really quickly, these are all the start locations, and these are the counts of how many times during that frequency, basically the frequency during that time period of how many times they go to this location. So we go to, this person goes to Chestnut Street 9 times, they go to Hudson Ave 5 times, Colorado Boulevard 3 times. So again, just going back through that, we're going to go rows, start, values, day. And then we can go ahead and double click in between A and B to give us a little bit more space to see what those addresses are. So that really quickly shows us some frequency. And at this point, Google says, okay, we want our students to kind of make some inferences. So we're talking, looking at data, looking at inferences, and talking about what that data may or may not tell us about this person. So a student might look at, oh, they go to this address 9 times. Well, where do I go the most during my day? Well, I go home, back and forth from school every day. Maybe I'm going to dinner with my parents as well, or maybe I'm going to grandma's house and back. Well, that means I'm going to this address a couple times a day. That's a frequent date. So maybe this is his address. Maybe he's going 5 times to Hudson Ave. Ooh, that seems like 5 times. There's 5 work days during a week. Maybe this is the place where this guy works. Maybe this is where he really likes to shop. But we don't know much because these are just addresses. So the next step here, after students have played with the data set a little bit, created their pivot table, is now we want to go over and jump over to maps, because maps will give us a little bit more perspective. So we're teaching our students 2 different ways to interpret the data. One, we're looking at inferences off the pivot table, and now we're going to go over to my maps. So if you've never played with my maps, you can go 2 different ways. I prefer just to Google search it. I'm going to go ahead and add my maps. A lot of teachers, a lot of students prefer to go to their drive. And depending on your LEA, you might be able to go to new, more, and then find my maps in there. So either way works really well. I just prefer searching it, but we'll just go ahead and grab a brand new my map. Now from there, now we can code our data in. And if you've watched this series, you've seen me do this a couple times now because it's a favorite trick of mine, but also it's one that Google does a lot with geographic knowledge and working with students. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and first title our map. This, I'm going to call it driving inferences map. So just so I have that in there. So it makes it clear what kind of map this is, and I'm making inferences off it, those sorts of things. Now, the next thing is something we've done a couple times, which is we're going to import a data sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and hit import. I'm going to go to Google Drive, hit my recents button, and find that copy of driving records. It's right there. Hit select. And what we're going to do is go ahead and grab start because that has our address on it. We're going to hit start. The start point for our tag for our markers. And we're going to hit finish and let it load that data for us. All right, there it is. Now, the problem is that when we add data from a Google Sheet to a My Map, it doesn't give us all of that data right offhand. So right here, we can see it says uniform style and all items. Well, that means that all the items, you can see I've highlighted them on the map. All of them are highlighted, but they're all the same color. They don't give us a lot of interesting work there. We want to see the individual addresses. So I'm going to go ahead and hit uniform style, hit the drop down, and I'm going to go ahead and change that to individual styles. And now those go ahead and give us those individual pieces right there. So I can go ahead and click and see those. Now, if I want to even get more granular, I can go ahead and go style by data column, start, and now it'll change the color and give me the comprehensive data. So I can see right here, I go to Chestnut Street 9 times and Hudson Avenue 5 times and so on and so forth down it. Now, this allows us to see a little bit more interesting data about this person and maybe start to dig into some inferences. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the first one here, the one with 9, which is Chestnut Street in Pasadena, California. If I scroll in and on this map, I can see that is Acapella Pasadena Apartments. So in this case, this is probably where this person lives. So there's an inference, kind of justified. He's gone 9 times to his house, driven 9 times to his house. Well, I figured out that that is the right spot. With 5, we're going to highlight that one and then zoom into it. This one happens to be the corner of a street, and it looks like Fox Corporate Housing. So this looks like another apartment. So it might be his job, or it might be an apartment, he or she's job or apartment. And the last one here, Colorado Boulevard. If I scroll in, I believe this, yep, it's a taco place. So maybe this is his favorite restaurant. So we can make some inferences off of that we've now found this person's favorite restaurant, where they live, and their job. Now, at this point, students are encouraged by Google to play around with this map a little bit more. So I'm just going to show you a couple of tips and tricks with this. So if I click on any of these spots that are outlined on the map, I can go ahead and change some of the stuff that's on here. So the first one is I can change the style. So I can change this to a yellow icon, and I can change the icon down here. One thing that's fun for students is that they can scroll down all the way down here and see older icons as well. They can choose any of these crazy icons that they'd like and add that to their list. So like, for instance, I'll just add this baseball here. And now we have a baseball right there. Or I've had students go ahead and create a custom icon where they can upload their own picture or a picture of an object or that location as well, which is kind of fun. As well in here, students can go ahead and edit the details of this. They can change the name of the location. So instead of it being Vermont Avenue number 204, they can add in, this is such and such place, Trader Joe's or the apartment. And then also they can add an image of that location as well, or of something associated with that location. So Google asks students to do that a little bit more thoroughly, to play around with the map to create more data points to work off of. It's something that they explain is helpful for machine learning and digging into the process. So with that said, that's pretty much everything for Unit 1, except for one big thing. So as they go through, as we go through the project with Google, they ask students to answer a series of questions about data and data, how we're collecting data and how this influences computers, and what we want our data to be, which data we want to be sharing with computers and which data we don't. So down here at the very bottom of the starter projects, there's a machine learning journal. And if you go ahead and click on that and make a copy, that link will give you all the questions that are asked in the videos and space for the students to answer those questions so they can keep track of their journal as they go through. And as you can see, there's quite a few questions. And again, some of them are, kind of basic going along with the lesson, like who would you want to share your own driving data with, to really deep questions about what are the pros and cons of data to help machines learn. So really asking those deep questions about not only what data is, but how we work with it with computers and what kind of things we want our computers to learn with. One of the remixes, I'm just going to go through this right now, is down here at the bottom. There is a form remix of this where a student can go through this Google form that has all the questions embedded in there that they can answer, as well as just as a courtesy, I've added response validation to make sure that students add at least 100 characters to that question, so we know they're writing something there as well. It's broken into the different lessons, and thanks to Google over the last couple of months, adding Google Forms saving over 30 days. So a student who does this one day and then comes back to class the next day, they would be able to keep their answers on this form and come back to it the next day as well. So lots of really good stuff there for 2 options for the machine learning journal. All right, once they are done with that particular portion of the project, building their mind map, looking at the data, creating some inferences, filling out their machine learning journal, the next step is for them to create their own data collection. So on here, I've created a Google form. They ask students to do this on a sheet, but and then create a form out of that sheet. But I find it really simple to just go ahead and do the form and do it the other direction. What they want students to do is go ahead and create a data collection project on basically a Likert scale. So I'm going to go ahead and do this over butterflies. And I'm going to grab an image of it. I'm going through Google image search. And I like that one right there. So this is what Google asks them to do. Choose 5 to 10 things that they're going to have their classmates rate. So on here, I've got butterflies. I'm going to change that to a linear scale and 1 to 5 and let the students choose. Or you could do a multiple choice or a drop down on there as well. There's multiple ways to do that feedback. So the students will choose 5 to 10 things. I've already only put in 5 spots here, but it's easy for students to duplicate questions and add one more if they need to. And then after all the students have built their data collection point, which is their Google form, they have Google wants students to go around and have the students collect data from their fellow students. Now that data collection is basically handing off your computer or your form to other students and letting them fill it out. Now it's a simple Likert scale question. So these forms fill out super quickly and are easy for students to work with. And at the end of it, all of those students will have 10 to 20 students who have filled out their form, which is 10 to 20 data points per question. Now, Google says in the lesson, have only 10. The way that they've structured the next part of the lesson, it's really easy to do more. So as many as you have time for is kind of what I would say. But the more, the better. Now, this is a great section, whereas the last question would have been great in like a digital literacy class or digital citizenship class, maybe a CTE class. This section where we're talking about data collection, you could do this in conjunction with a math class. So the first part where we're collecting data, pretty straightforward, but the next thing that we're going to do is take that data, turn it into a sheet. We're going to go ahead and create a brand new spreadsheet. And once we have that data filled out, Google walks them through, and this is where we're going to gloss just because I only have 15 minutes left and I don't have time to get into all the formulas, but the students are going to create a comparison from point to point, how many people have turned in or how many people have scored and what the average of the scores are to figure out what the average of the overall thought process about butterflies or rainbows or McDonald's or whatever it is that the students are rating. And so at the end, the students create a very quick set of data off of their table where they're able to dig into some formulas and make them very, very clear. So to show you that just really quickly, rather than going through the actual process, because it would take the most amount of time, I'm just going to show you very quickly where that is at. So if we go back to our lesson on applied digital skills, this is lesson number 3 and lesson number 4. So lesson number 3, it will teach students how to create and test the form, which we just talked about. We're going to create the form on a Likert scale, a drop down, or multiple choice, asking students to collect that data. Then in lesson 4, they prepare the data, which is where they create the form out of it and then turn it into a sheet. They're going to talk about developing the model, and then we're going to use that data to improve the model. And that's where they get into the into the formulas on the sheet, which takes a little bit of time for the students to recognize. But I believe it's only a 3 or 4 minute video, walks them through, it's even 2 minutes. There's a pair of them, so about 5 minutes. It walks them through the whole process very, very clearly. Now, in there at the end, the students are able to then make predictions about the data and return back to their machine learning journal. At the end of that lesson, it asks them questions about what patterns did you see in your data? What did the item you choose fit the category? Do you think your categories have been too broad? Did you get it broad? Did you get enough data from your fellow classmates? And did your algorithm work well for recommending new items to users? Now, what's great about that process is, again, thinking about a math class. Simple formulas talking about average and recommendations, but then algorithms. This is a way to teach prediction, which is statistics. And so it's a simple lesson, again, paired with another class or taught straightforward. It would really dig into the mathematics of how machines work and operate at kind of a larger scale, things like Amazon or Google, and how they recommend things to users based on simple scales like 4 or 5 star scales. And so again, don't have enough time to go through this in a 40-minute lesson, but a couple videos there would make it very simple for the students to do it and turn that collected data, all of those responses they get, 10 to 20 people from their classmates about simple things like butterflies or McDonald's or Disneyland, to turn it into an algorithm to create predictions. So very, very cool, very fun to work with. All right, the last section here in the last couple minutes that we have left is section 5 and 6. Section 7 is just a wrap up with a quiz, which if you are logged in and your students are logged in, that quiz goes really quickly, but it also tracks their learning. But 5 and 6 are great capstones to this particular project. So as we've gone through, students have gone ahead and collected driving data. They've done data collection. We have collected data sheet as well. In this case, I made a theme park one to kind of test some things out. You can see this one's from Google here. And then the machine learning journal. But what we haven't seen is this process in practice. So thinking again about like computer science or digital literacy, this would be a great lesson, maybe even to pair with an ELA class or a science class, to talk about how we actually train computers, how they learn to do certain things for and with us, maybe even against our best judgment. So in there, if we go back to our site here, right down below, we have this link to the machine learning activity website. So Google recommends that the students go and check this out and try it out. I'm going to go ahead and just pull it up on the big screen. Machine learning activity, there we go. Google. I believe it's this guy right here. Nope. Well, we'll go back to our site there. For some reason, it's not pulling up. On here, though, they have a quick little project here for students to do. So what they do is they're going to actually have the train a computer to recognize images. So right now, I want them to recognize faces. We click start. And as we go through here, I'm going to go ahead and choose the pictures that I need to teach the computer from. So I want them to pick out faces. So this is a face. This is a face. Yep. All right, cool. I'm going to hit train and it's going to run through to see if it's got it. So it's going to train it and it's going to spit out some results. So I click next. Okay, here are some faces. So there's 1, 2, 3. Ooh, the rest of them not so good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit test. The ones that aren't faces, I'm going to move over to the red. So that one's not, that one's not. All right, check accuracy. So it walks them through the process, and the students can go through this a few times to see if they actually, the machine learns and if they can train it properly. So they get some hands-on work with this. Now, that's just incredibly cool for a student to see that process um, in reality working them through. But there's another program that Google has that is just as good for teaching machine learning. So there's this great program called Quick Draw. If you've never played Quick Draw, get ready to lose half an hour of your life. In here, you are working with the computer to show them you're going to draw something, and the computer has to recognize it. And as it goes through, it spits out results. So right here, it's going to ask me to draw a rake in under 20 seconds. So it guesses as we go through. Oh, thank you, Pam. I'll make sure that gets on there as well for the format. So grab a bee. And if I don't train it right, so I got it within 3 seconds. So it's kind of a fun little game for students to play. But as they go through it, they see they're actually training the AI to recognize images and drawing, and they see it in real time going through that process. So it challenges them as a game, but they're seeing that process of machine learning through art in a very quick process. And so kids will get a kind of a kick out of it to see the different ways that it can be used to teach machine learning. Now, the last thing really quick, so that's unit 5, or sorry, unit 6. Or yeah, unit 5, I was correct. Unit 6 actually goes into kind of the theory and process of what is machine learning, what does it do for our civilization, and then it uses this great example about talking about machine learning and fairness in college decisions. So again, this is a cross-curricular activity that maybe you could do with school counselors, college or kind of those skills-based classes that we're looking for students to go through from junior high on, to talk about what it is it like to apply for college, and how does a machine and machine learning and college decisions all tie in together. And there's some great videos and great activities that go along with it. The wrap up there again goes back to our copy of our um, machine learning journal. And as the students go through it, lesson 6, they have to respond to some questions about what's overlooked in the data, what are some problems in the data, what's gained from having diverse data and perspectives in machine learning, and how does it create different things for different audiences as we look at the data and apply it to machine learning. So very, very cool set of lessons here that, again, it starts out, you could do it like the first lesson, you could do it in a geography class with the maps, you could do it in ELA class, you could even do it in a science class or a digital literacy class. Then you could talk about doing it in a math class. You could do it in a CTE class. You could do it with counselors. And there's such great layers to this project that cross-curricularly, there are some great applications across the board for everyone working together. Now, the last things I want to talk about in the last few minutes we have here, just a couple of remix options down here below. We already talked about the remix of the form, and I'll make sure that's shared as well. Pam, I saw your message about that. I'll make sure that gets shared out with everyone as well. But I do want to talk about 2 other remixes that would be helpful for a lot of classes. The first one is the Sheets remix, which is I called My Biography. One of the things that they talked about in the first couple of lessons inside this applied digital skill lesson is how do we create inferences based on what we're seeing in a set of data. So what I thought would be really fun, maybe in an ELA class, social studies class, or maybe just for a fun assignment in pretty much any class, maybe even a get to know you assignment, is having students create their own set of data. So I was thinking my biography, maybe these are my favorite places around town, maybe these are my favorite places in the world. And I go and have a search on Google to find the address. And I go find like my favorite restaurant, my favorite comic book shop, my favorite record store, grandma's house, my house, so on and so forth. They add the location name, the address, one detail about it. And then they can work with a partner where they grab their data and they copy and paste their data to it. And you can have the students create inferences based on what they're seeing in their partner's data, and their partner creates inferences about their data set. So they're copying and pasting from sheet to sheet, learning those digital skills. But then also we're practicing inferences, which is a great thing in a couple of different Common Core groups. Particularly inferences are pretty heavy in ELA, helping out students create inferences from text, inferences from ideas, and building those in, as well as things that fits into some of the seed standards as well. And so this could be easily further adapted and say, not my biography, but maybe I want important locations from a famous person's life, like Albert Einstein's life, famous scientist. Or maybe I want to talk about a specific industry, and so it's going to be my industry sheet and all these different locations of like textile factories or coal plants for a CTE class. There's lots of different applications here, but this is one that I just thought would be really fun. I could see a little like elementary, late elementary, junior high, lower grade high school, doing this as like an introductory activity, and then digging into each other's biographies for like a personal essay, but then also digging in and learning inferences as they went through. The second option that's on here as well is just a link to Google Earth. When we talk about My Maps is a wonderful product. It's just such a fun, versatile, amazing thing that students can build different maps out of. It's just got so much to it. But I don't ever want to forget that we also have Google Earth that does very much similar things, and also can include things like 3D views of objects. We can add more pictures to it. There's some really cool sweeping effects with the globe and things like that, where the students can do that also now saved through Google Drive. So this is just another option for students and teachers to do the same part of the project where we're incorporating data sets, but instead we're doing it by hand through Google Earth to give us a different perspective and dive in a little bit differently. And maybe this might be something where we're talking about a geography class in 7th, 8th grade, where the students really dive into understanding geography around the world, and they work off a data set based on fault lines or landforms or famous locations of earthquakes or something like that, or volcanoes. And we're digging into that process. I could see that in earth science class too as well. And so it's just a different way of visualizing the same information, but I always want to bring that up because I don't want to forget that Google Earth exists and it's incredible. And the last one here for Remixes we've already talked about, but just a Google form with the same questions from the machine learning journal that allows the students to fill it out on a Google form and saves the teacher a little bit of time again with that response validation formatting for a minimum character count. So we know that the students are going to have to respond and the students are going to have to write. And if you've never done response validation, any question, 3 dots, response validation, and you're good to go. Awesome. I will make sure that gets on there, Pam, the data collection remix, so that you can grab it here as well. I'll make sure that gets off the call. The last thing really quick here, folks, just kind of walking out of this lesson is, again, it is a massive lesson. It's 3 to 5 hours by recommendation by Google. I would say if you're applying some of the remixes, it might get a little bit longer, and depending on the grade level you're applying it to, there's there might be a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. But when you apply things like Quick Draw, or you're applying some of these remixes we're talking about, or if you're doing this in cross-curricular fashion, it is a fantastic set of lessons that really dives deeply into some important questions about how we think about machines, how we work with machines, how we think about data, and then also at the core of it, which is the core of applied digital skills, using the digital tools available to us like sheets and forms and maps and coding to really understand what it is and do it and try it out as well. And so with that said, check out the lesson, all the remixes, and I'll check the links here after the set, make sure they're all working. All of those are on our site, which is again, go.uen.org/lowercase b, uppercase T, the number 9. You can always email me, mwinners@uen.org, to ask any questions, to see what's going on. Next week, we're doing one of my favorite lesson plans on all of applied digital skills, which I haven't filled out yet. I'm excited to get it filled out because we're going to be creating comic strips particularly through two spots: Google Drawings, Google Slides. I love creating comic strips. I think it's one of the best things. We're going to have a remix through Jamboard that I think a lot of students would love to do. And if you're going, I've never made a comic book or read a comic book, don't worry. It's a great tool to check students' learning in formative fashion, but also to do some summative learning, especially for ELA classes. And it's just a blast. Students love creating comic books because it harnesses their ability to doodle, which all of us love to doodle, whether we will admit it or not. So with that said, we'll be covering that next Tuesday. And then our last lesson in the series is understanding your digital footprint, which I'm very excited to share with everyone. But check that out next Tuesday. We'll be here again at 3 o'clock.